I died at 23, poisoned by my own brother's hand. The bitter almond taste of cyanide was still on my lips when I woke up in my childhood bedroom, staring at the faded, glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Mom reminding me that today was the academy entrance exam. The most important day of my life, she'd called it. The day that would determine everything. I sat up, my heart pounding as memories flooded back. I was 18 again. 5 years before Marcus would slip poison into my celebratory champagne at my medical school graduation party. 5 years before he'd watch me convulse on the floor while he calmly deleted the emergency call I'd tried to make. 5 years before he'd stand at my funeral, accepting condolences with red-rimmed eyes, playing the grieving brother to perfection. But none of that had happened yet, because somehow, impossibly, I was back. My door burst open without warning. Marcus stood there in his perfectly pressed clothes, his scholarship letter from the local community college crumpled in his fist. Even at 19, he had that same calculating look in his eyes that I'd missed the first time around. "Ready for your big day, little sister?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. The golden child off to take her entrance exam for the most prestigious academy in the country. Must be nice. I remembered this conversation. In my first life, I'd apologized for being younger but testing higher. I'd promised to help him transfer somewhere better once I graduated. I'd felt guilty for opportunities I'd earned through years of studying while he partied. This time, I simply smiled. "Actually, Marcus, I've been thinking. You should take my spot." The words hung in the air between us. His eyes narrowed, searching for the trick, the joke, the catch. There wasn't one, at least not one he could see. "What are you talking about?" "The exam," I said, stretching lazily. "You're right. It's not fair that I get this opportunity just because I test well. You're older, you deserve it more. Besides, I've been feeling really sick lately. I don't think I can make it." As if on cue, I pressed my hand to my forehead and swayed slightly. It wasn't entirely an act. Dying and being reborn was exhausting. Marcus stepped closer, and I saw it then. The hunger in his eyes. The same look he'd had when he watched me sign my first doctor's salary bonus check. When I'd bought my parents their dream house. When I'd gotten engaged to Richard, heir to a pharmaceutical fortune. Marcus had always wanted everything I had, and he'd finally taken it all with a glass of poisoned champagne. "You're serious?" he asked. "Dead serious." The irony of my word choice wasn't lost on me. "We look enough alike. You could use my admission ticket, take the exam in my place. It's all computerized anyway, multiple choice. Essay sections scored by AI. As long as you know the material." "I know the material," he said quickly, too quickly. "I've been studying." That was a lie. Marcus hadn't opened a textbook in years, but I nodded sympathetically. "Of course you have. You're brilliant, Marcus. You've just never had the right opportunities." My parents were at work, Dad at the factory, Mom cleaning houses. They wouldn't know about the switch until it was too late. In my first life, I'd aced the academy entrance exam, scoring in the top 1%. It had been my ticket to everything, the full scholarship, the internships, the connections that led to medical school, and Richard, and the life Marcus had eventually stolen. "But what about you, Nisi?" Marcus asked, though I could see he was already sold on the idea. "What will you do?" "Community college," I said with a shrug. "Transfer somewhere better later. It's not the end of the world." He was already reaching for my admission ticket on my desk. "You know Mom and Dad will be disappointed." "I'll handle them." I would. In my first life, they'd died in a car accident during my junior year at the academy. Brake lines that mysteriously failed. Marcus had been the only one who knew they were driving that particular mountain road that day. He'd suggested the scenic route for their anniversary trip. "You're sure about this?" Marcus asked, clutching my ticket. "Positive. Just remember, the exam uses biometric scanning now. Fingerprints, retinal scans. Very sophisticated." This was a complete lie. The academy still used paper tickets and number 2 pencils. But Marcus nodded seriously, already plotting how to beat the non-existent system. After he left with my admission ticket, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There he was, Grandfather Chen. In my first life, I hadn't known he existed until after the funeral. When a lawyer had contacted me about an inheritance I never got to claim because I was already dead. My mother's estranged father, a tech billionaire who'd spent 20 years searching for his daughter after she'd run away with my father. I dialed the number I'd memorized from that lawyer's business card in my past life. Hello? The voice was older, gravelly but sharp. Grandfather Chen? My name is Isabella Santos. I'm your granddaughter, Marie's daughter. Silence. Then, Marie had children? Two, my brother Marcus and me. I'm 18 and I need your help. My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 20 years, and now her child calls me out of the blue? Suspicion laced his words. Mom doesn't know I'm calling. She still thinks you disapprove of Dad, try to break them up. But I've done my research. I know you've been looking for her. I know about the private investigators, the scholarship funds you set up in her name hoping she'd apply. All things the lawyer had mentioned after my death. I'm not calling for money. I'm calling because my family is in danger and you're the only one who can help me protect them. Another pause. What kind of danger? The kind that comes from inside the house, I said carefully. I can't explain everything over the phone, but I need resources, not money, information, surveillance, protection they won't know about. You sound very mature for 18. I've had to grow up fast. Where are you? I gave him our address, the small apartment in the bad part of town, the place Marcus had always been so ashamed of. I can be there in 3 hours, he said. Will you be alone? Yes, my parents are at work and my brother is taking care of something for me. Then we'll talk. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and logged into the Academy's student portal using credentials I shouldn't have remembered but did. The exam would start in 2 hours. Marcus would be there, sitting in a room with 300 other hopefuls, trying to fake his way through quantum physics, advanced calculus, bioethics, and critical reasoning. I pulled up the Academy's honor code on my screen. Section 3, subsection C. Any student found guilty of academic dishonesty, including but not limited to cheating, plagiarism, or identity fraud, will be immediately expelled and permanently banned from reapplication. Their name will be added to the National Academic Integrity Database, preventing admission to any accredited institution. In my first life, I'd never needed to read that section. I'd never cheated, never even been tempted. But Marcus would. He couldn't help himself. It was in his nature, just like murder. I opened another tab and navigated to a tutoring website where I'd worked in my first life to earn extra money. The owner, Dr. Patricia Kim, had become a mentor. She'd also become an Academy board member 2 years later, though she wasn't one yet. I sent her an email from a burner account. Dr. Kim, you don't know me, but I have information about potential cheating at today's Academy entrance exam. A student has stolen another's identity and is attempting to take the test in their place. The fraud will be obvious once the exams are graded. The imposter has no knowledge of the subjects being tested. But I thought you should know immediately. The real student's name is Isabella Santos. The imposter is Marcus Santos, her older brother. Please verify this quietly to avoid embarrassing the family if I'm wrong. I attached a photo of Marcus from his social media, then screenshots of his community college transcripts showing his failing grades in basic science courses. Finally, I included a recording I'd made years ago of him bragging to friends about how he'd find a way to get what he deserved from me. In my first life, I'd deleted it, thinking he was just venting. Now it would be evidence. 3 hours later, Grandfather Chen sat in our small living room, looking out of place in his tailored suit. He had Mom's eyes, or rather, she had his. Sharp, intelligent, missing nothing. You look like her, he said softly. Like Marie when she was young. Before she met Dad? Before she thought she had to choose between family and love. He studied me carefully. You're not really 18, are you? Not in any way that matters. I met his gaze steadily. Would you believe me if I told you the truth? Try me, so I did. I told him everything about dying at 23, about waking up here, about what Marcus would do if given the chance. I told him about our parents' death, about the poisoned champagne, about the life I'd built and lost. I expected disbelief, demands for psychiatric evaluation. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a call. James, I need a full background check on Marcus Santos. Yes, the grandson I didn't know I had. Everything, psychological profiles, academic records, social media history, financial records once he turns 18. And I need security on Marie and her husband. Discreet. They can't know. Because their son is dangerous and their daughter is trying to save them. He hung up and looked at me. I've seen stranger things than rebirth in my 70 years. And you have Marie's truthful eyes. She could never lie to me, even when she tried. Neither can you. You believe me? I believe you believe it. And that's enough for now. What do you need? I need to disappear from Marcus's radar while still staying close enough to protect Mom and Dad. I need to build my own life without the academy, without the traditional path, and I need Marcus to destroy himself with his own greed before he can hurt anyone. And the academy exam? I smiled. He's there now pretending to be me. He has no idea that they implemented new security measures this year. Cameras in every testing room, proctors trained to spot anxiety patterns in test takers. He'll panic when he sees the questions. He'll try to cheat and he'll get caught. You planned this. I gave him exactly what he wanted, my life, but my life was built on years of study, sacrifice, and genuine ability. He thinks success is something you can steal. He's about to learn otherwise. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Miss Santos? This is Dean Richardson from the Academy. We need to speak with you immediately about your entrance exam. Of course, Dean Richardson. Is something wrong? I'm afraid there's been an incident. Someone attempted to take the exam in your place. A young man who claimed to be you, but couldn't answer basic security questions about your application essays. When confronted, he tried to run. Security detained him, and he's now facing identity fraud charges. Oh my God, I gasped, letting shock and hurt fill my voice. Who would do such a thing? He claims to be your brother, Marcus Santos? Marcus, but why would he? I don't understand. I've been sick all morning. I couldn't make it to the exam. I was going to call and ask to reschedule, but Marcus said he was going to his community college classes. He said, I let my voice break. Dean Richardson, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. This is so embarrassing. Miss Santos, you're the victim here. Identity theft is a serious crime, especially when it involves academic fraud. We've contacted the police, but I'm calling because despite this unfortunate situation, we'd like to offer you the opportunity to take the exam privately, under secured conditions. Your application was exceptional, and we don't want you to lose your chance because of someone else's actions. That's very generous, but I don't know if I can. This is my brother we're talking about. My family will be destroyed. I understand this is difficult. Take some time. The offer stands for 1 week. And Miss Santos? We've been in contact with someone claiming to be your grandfather, Chen Technologies' CEO. He's vouching for your character and has offered to provide security for your exam if you choose to take it. I looked at Grandfather Chen, who nodded slightly. Thank you, Dean Richardson. I'll be in touch. After I hung up, Grandfather stood. Come, we have work to do. Where are we going? To my office. If you're going to build a life outside the traditional path, you'll need resources. I have a proposal. Work for me while you attend community college. Learn the business from the ground up. In 2 years, you'll have more real-world experience than any academy graduate. And Marcus? Will face the consequences of his choices. The police, the academic fraud charges, the permanent record. He won't be able to hurt anyone from prison. But I knew Marcus better than that. Prison wouldn't hold him long. He was too charming, too manipulative. He'd find a way out, a deal to make, a person to exploit. No, Marcus needed to destroy himself completely, publicly, in a way that would follow him forever. That evening, my parents came home to find police cars outside our building. I met them at the door, tears streaming down my face, real tears, because despite everything, part of me mourned the brother Marcus could have been. Mom, Dad, something terrible has happened. The story came out in pieces. How I'd been too sick to attend the exam, how Marcus must have taken my ticket, how he'd been caught and arrested. Mom collapsed into Dad's arms, sobbing. Dad's face went stone hard, aging 10 years in 10 seconds. I don't understand, Mom kept saying. Why would he do this? We raised him better. But Dad knew. I could see it in his eyes. All the little things he'd noticed over the years but dismissed. The missing money, the lies, the way Marcus always had someone else to blame for his failures. We need to get him a lawyer, Mom said. No. Dad's voice was firm. He made his choice. He needs to face the consequences. But he's our son. And he tried to destroy his sister's future. What kind of person does that? The kind who would later murder them for insurance money, I thought, but didn't say. Over the next week, Marcus's situation worsened. The academy pressed full charges. The story made locals, news. Man attempts to steal sister's identity for prestigious exam. His photo was everywhere, linked forever to academic fraud. His community college expelled him. His friends disappeared. But the real blow came when the investigation uncovered more. My anonymous tips to various authorities had sparked interest in Marcus's other activities. The forged signatures on loan documents, the credit cards he'd opened in Mom's name, the gambling debts he'd hidden. It all came crashing down at once. I took the academy exam in a private room with 3 proctors and cameras recording every angle. I deliberately scored in the 85th percentile. Good enough for admission, but not spectacular enough to draw Marcus's attention from whatever prison cell he'd eventually occupy. Then I turned down the acceptance. I appreciate the opportunity, I told Dean Richardson, but after everything that's happened, I need to stay close to my family. I'll be attending community college and working for my grandfather's company. He seemed disappointed but understanding. The academy's doors will always be open to you, Miss Santos. Sometimes the unconventional path leads to the greatest discoveries. 6 months passed. Marcus was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. The judge, noting the calculated and malicious nature of his crimes against his own family, sentenced him to 5 years in federal prison. Mom cried at the sentencing. Dad didn't attend. I threw myself into work at Chen Technologies. Grandfather was a demanding but brilliant teacher. He showed me how to read markets, how to spot innovation, how to build something from nothing. I learned coding, business development, investment strategies. The community college courses were almost laughably easy in comparison, but I attended every class, aced every test, played the part of the ordinary student. Richard appeared in my life right on schedule, a guest speaker in my economics class, heir to his pharmaceutical fortune, exactly as handsome and charming as I remembered. In my first life, we'd met at an academy mixer, bonding over shared ambition and expensive wine. This time, he didn't even notice me in the crowd of community college students. Good. Richard had been another one of Marcus's victims, manipulated into investing in fake companies after I died. Better he never knew any of us existed. A year into Marcus's sentence, I got a call from the prison. Not from him. He didn't know I was the one who'd been feeding information to the prosecutors, ensuring his conviction. The call was from the warden. Miss Santos, I'm calling about your brother. There's been an incident. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. Is he hurt? He attempted to organize a credit fraud ring inside the prison using other inmates' information. He was caught and is facing additional charges. I'm calling because he's been asking to see you. He says he has information about threats to your family. Old Isabella would have rushed there, worried about what Marcus knew, but I understood his game. He wanted to manipulate me, to guilt me into helping him somehow. Perhaps he'd figured out that Grandfather Chen was involved in his downfall. Perhaps he just wanted to hurt me with words since he couldn't reach me any other way. Thank you for letting me know, Warden. Please tell my brother that I wish him well, but I won't be visiting. And any threats he thinks exist are probably just his imagination. We're quite safe. We were. Grandfather's security team was invisible but thorough. They'd already prevented 2 attempts by Marcus's gambling creditors to approach my parents. The men had been convinced to forget the debts existed. Grandfather had methods I didn't ask about too closely. Year 2 passed in a blur of hostile takeovers and emerging technologies. I led my first acquisition, a small AI startup that everyone else thought was worthless. 6 months later, we sold it to a major tech company for 50 times what we paid. Grandfather smiled proudly and made me Senior Vice President of Strategic Development. I was 20 in this life, with no formal business degree, commanding a salary that dwarfed what I'd made as a doctor in my first life. Mom and Dad moved to a better neighborhood. Grandfather insisted, though they didn't know he was paying. They thought Dad had gotten a promotion and Mom's cleaning business had expanded. Small lies that kept them safe and happy. They still cried sometimes about Marcus, but less often. The son they'd loved had never really existed. Year 3 brought unexpected challenges. Marcus had somehow managed to reduce his sentence through a combination of good behavior and legal technicalities. He'd be out in 6 months. The news hit me like ice water. 3 years instead of 5, I hadn't planned for this. He won't touch you, Grandfather promised. I'll make sure of it. But I knew Marcus. He was like a cockroach, impossible to kill, always surviving, always adapting. Prison had probably made him worse, smarter, more dangerous. He'd come for me, for all of us, the moment he was free. I needed a permanent solution. The opportunity came from an unexpected source. Dr. Patricia Kim, my old mentor who is now on the Academy board, reached out. She'd been following my career at Chen Technologies. Isabella, I have a proposition. The Academy is starting a new program, alternative admissions for exceptional candidates who've proven themselves in the real world. No exam, just portfolio review and board interview. I think you'd be perfect. Dr. Kim, I'm honored, but I'm not sure. Before you refuse, hear me out. This wouldn't be ordinary enrollment. You'd enter as a junior, given credit for your work experience, graduate in 2 years with a special designation, Academy Fellow. It's a new initiative to bring real-world experience into our academic environment. You'd teach a seminar while completing your studies. It was tempting, but also dangerous. The Academy was where everything had started in my first life, where I'd met Richard, where I'd built the foundation Marcus had envied. Going back felt like tempting fate. Can I think about it? Of course, but Isabella, this opportunity won't come again. We're only selecting 3 candidates worldwide for the pilot program. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood at my apartment window, a penthouse now, with security that would make the White House jealous, and thought about paths not taken. In my first life, the Academy had been everything. In this life, I'd proven I didn't need it. But maybe that was exactly why I should go back. Not as the naive 18-year-old I'd been, but as someone who'd already lived and died, who'd built an empire and watched it crumble, who'd learned that success without wisdom was just delayed failure. My phone buzzed, a notification from the prison system. Marcus had been transferred to a halfway house for the remainder of his sentence. He was effectively free. I called Grandfather. I'm going to accept the Academy offer. Are you certain? With Marcus being released? That's exactly why I need to do this. He took my first life there. I won't let him take my second. Besides, the Academy has resources, connections. If he comes for me, better to face him somewhere I have allies. And if he comes for your parents? Then we move them. Witness protection if necessary. But I don't think he will. Marcus always blamed me, not them. In his mind, they're just collateral damage. I'm the target. The next morning, I called Dr. Kim and accepted. The board interview was a formality. Grandfather's influence and my track record at Chen Technologies spoke louder than any test score. 2 weeks later, I received my acceptance letter for the Academy Fellow program. Mom cried when I told them. Happy tears this time. The Academy? But honey, I thought you'd given up on that dream. Dreams don't die, Mom. They just change shape. This is better than what I originally planned. I'll have my degree and years of experience. Best of both worlds. Dad hugged me tight. Your brother would be so proud, he said, then caught himself. We didn't talk about Marcus anymore, not really. He existed in past tense, a ghost of poor choices. I moved into academy housing a month later, not the cramped dorms I'd inhabited in my first life, but a faculty apartment reserved for fellows. My neighbors were professors and graduate students, serious people with serious ambitions. Richard lived 2 buildings over. I saw him sometimes, walking with his latest girlfriend, oblivious to my existence. In my first life, we'd been engaged by now. In this life, we were strangers. It was better that way. My seminar, Innovation in Emerging Markets, drew standing room only. Students who'd been born into privilege sat rapt as I explained how to build something from nothing, how to spot opportunity, where others saw disaster. I taught them about my failures too. Deals that went bad, technologies that flopped. I didn't tell them about my biggest failure, trusting my brother with my life. 3 months into the semester, I saw him. Marcus stood across the quad, thinner than before, older, harder. Prison had carved away the soft edges, left something sharp and dangerous. He wore a janitor's uniform. The academy hired ex-convicts for rehabilitation programs. Someone with a record like his couldn't get other work. Our eyes met across the manicured lawn. In my first life, this meeting had never happened. He'd been successful, I'd been dead. Now the positions were reversed. I was the fellow, the prodigy, the success story. He was the cautionary tale, cleaning toilets in the place he'd tried to infiltrate through fraud. He started walking toward me. My hand went to my phone, ready to call security, but he stopped 10 feet away, his hands visible, non-threatening. Hello, Isabella. Marcus. You look well, successful. I am. I heard about Grandfather Chen. Must be nice having a billionaire appear out of nowhere to save you. So he did know. Someone had talked or he'd figured it out. Marcus had always been cunning. He didn't save me, I saved myself. He just provided resources. Resources? He laughed, bitter and sharp. Is that what we're calling it? You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life the moment you stole my identity. Everything that happened after was your choice, your consequence. I was your brother. You were my murderer. The words slipped out before I could stop them. His face went pale, then flushed with confusion. What are you talking about? Nothing. A nightmare I had once. About what kind of person takes advantage of family. I pulled out my phone, made sure he saw me preparing to dial. You're violating your parole by approaching me. The restraining order? I work here. I have every right to be on campus. But not within 50 feet of me. Leave now or I call security. He stood there for a long moment and I saw it in his eyes. The calculation, the weighing of options. Could he hurt me before security arrived? Was it worth going back to prison? What would cause me the most pain? Then something else flickered across his face. Fear. You knew, he whispered. Somehow, you knew what would happen. You gave me that ticket knowing I'd fail. You planned all of it. I kept my expression neutral. I gave you what you wanted, Marcus. You failed all on your own. No one's that lucky. No one plans that perfectly unless they know something. What are you? I'm your sister, the one you tried to destroy. And I'm telling you now, leave. Leave the academy. Leave the state. Leave the country if you have to. Because if you come near me or our parents again, Grandfather Chen will make you disappear in ways that have nothing to do with luck or planning. Do you understand? He understood. I saw it in the way his shoulders dropped, the fight going out of him. Marcus was many things, narcissistic, greedy, murderous in another timeline, but he wasn't stupid. He knew when he was outmatched. This isn't over, he said, but it sounded more like a plea than a threat. Yes, it is. It was over the moment you decided I was your enemy instead of your sister. He walked away, and I never saw him again. Security footage would later show him leaving campus that night, getting on a bus headed south. His parole officer would list him as absconded. There would be a warrant, a half-hearted search, then nothing. Marcus Santos would become another statistic, an ex-convict who couldn't readjust, who disappeared into the underworld of forgotten people. Good. The rest of the year passed peacefully. I excelled in my studies, expanded my seminar, published papers on market disruption that got attention from major economic journals. Richard finally noticed me at a faculty mixer, tried to charm me with the same lines he'd used in my first life. I turned him down gently. He wasn't a bad person, just a shallow one. He deserved someone who could love him for who he was, not who he'd been to a dead girl. Graduation came faster than expected. The academy compressed 2 years into 18 months for fellows, and I'd tested out of several requirements. Mom and Dad sat in the front row, crying again. Grandfather sat beside them, no longer estranged, finally family. The years of distance had melted away once Marcus was gone. The source of poison removed, the wound could heal. Dean Richardson handed me my diploma. Congratulations, Dr. Santos. The title was honorary. I hadn't earned a doctorate yet. But the academy had old traditions, and fellows were granted the courtesy. In my first life, I'd earned that title through years of medical school. In this life, I'd earned it through surviving, through building, through refusing to be a victim. Thank you, Dean. What's next for you? I hear Chen Technologies has quite an offer on the table. They do, but I'm considering other options too. The Mayo Clinic had reached out about a revolutionary program combining business development with medical research. Goldman Sachs wanted me for their emerging technologies division. 3 startups had offered me founding partner positions. Whatever you choose, I'm sure you'll excel. You have that quality, Miss Santos. You see 3 moves ahead when everyone else is still learning the rules. If only he knew how literal that was. The ceremony ended with the traditional bell ringing, each graduate pulling the rope once, the sound echoing across campus. When my turn came, I pulled hard, letting the bronze voice boom out over the quad where Marcus had confronted me, over the exam hall where he'd tried to steal my life, over all the paths not taken and choices unmade. In my first life, this moment had been the beginning of everything. In this life, it was just another milestone on a journey I was writing myself. That night, there was a party at grandfather's estate. Nothing like the intimate family gathering where Marcus had poisoned me. This was massive, public, with security at every entrance and cameras recording everything. Business partners, professors, fellow graduates, even Richard managed to get an invitation through his father's connections. I wore a designer dress that cost more than my parents' old apartment. Mom kept touching the fabric, amazed at its softness. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "Despite everything with Marcus, you didn't let it break you." "He made his choices, Mom. We all did." "I know, I just wish." "I know, me too." And I did wish. I wished Marcus had been different, that the brother I'd loved had been real and not a mask hiding something monstrous. But wishes weren't reality. Reality was what you built with your own hands, what you fought for, what you refused to let die. Grandfather clinked his glass, calling for attention. The crowd quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a few words about my granddaughter. 3 years ago, she called me out of nowhere. A stranger connected only by blood and stubborn hope. She told me a story I shouldn't have believed, made predictions that shouldn't have come true, and showed wisdom no 18-year-old should possess. But she was right about everything. Every warning, every opportunity, every move 3 steps ahead. Isabella didn't just save her family, she saved me too. From loneliness, from regret, from the mistake of letting pride keep me from the people I loved. So tonight I want to announce that I'm stepping down as CEO of Chen Technologies, and I'm naming my successor, Dr. Isabella Santos. The room erupted. I stood frozen, champagne glass, carefully chosen by me, poured by me, watched by me, old habits die hard, trembling in my hand. "Grandfather, I can't. You can and you will. You've been running the strategic division for 2 years. Every major win we've had has been your vision. The board already approved it. Unless you have a better offer?" I didn't. Even the Mayo Clinic couldn't match running a multi-billion-dollar technology empire at 21. In my first life, I'd been a successful doctor. In this life, I'd be a titan of industry before I could legally rent a car in some states. I accept. More applause. Mom was crying again. Dad looked stunned. Richard was staring at me with new interest, not romantic, but calculating. He'd just realized I wasn't just some scholarship student, but someone who could buy and sell his family's pharmaceutical company twice over. The other guests were reassessing too, recalibrating their understanding of power and possibility. Later, on the balcony overlooking the city, grandfather found me alone. Too much? No, just different. In my first life, success came slowly. Medical school, residency, building a practice. This feels accelerated? Unearned, he laughed. Unearned? You died and came back with knowledge of the future. You saved your parents from a car accident that hasn't happened. You prevented your brother from becoming a murderer by letting him destroy himself with his own greed. You built a fortune from nothing but wisdom and will. Tell me, what part of that is unearned? When you put it like that, power isn't about deserve, Isabella. It's about capability. And you're more capable than anyone I've ever met, including myself. Chen Technologies needs someone who can see around corners. You've already proven you can see around years. What if I fail? What if knowing the future has made me overconfident? Then you'll fail forward, like every great leader does. Besides, he smiled, you've already lived through failure. Death, betrayal, loss. You survived all of it. What's a hostile takeover or market crash compared to that? He was right. I'd faced the worst thing imaginable, dying at the hands of someone I loved. Everything else was just business. Grandfather, what really made you believe me? When I first called? He was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the lights. Your mother called me once. Years ago, before you were born, she was pregnant with Marcus, scared, wanting to reconcile. I was too proud, too angry that she'd chosen your father over the life I'd planned for her. I told her not to call again. She didn't. But in that call, she said something. She said her children would be special, that she could feel it, like destiny threading through her bones. I thought it was pregnancy hormones, wishful thinking. Then you called, talking about rebirth and prevention, about saving her from a fate she didn't know was coming. And I thought, what if Marie was right? What if you were the special she felt? Not Marcus, but you. You believed in destiny? I believed in my daughter's intuition. And I believed in you the moment you said you wanted to protect them, not enrich yourself. Marcus would have asked for money. You asked for surveillance and security. That told me everything about who you really were. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe below us. Somewhere out there, Marcus was running, hiding, probably planning some small con that would eventually land him back in prison. Somewhere, my parents were driving home safely in their new car with the excellent brakes and multiple safety features. Somewhere, another girl was studying for the academy entrance exam, dreaming of a future she could build with her own hands. Grandfather, when I die in this life, properly die, old and hopefully peaceful, do you think I'll remember? Either life? Does it matter? You're living now, you're building now, you're loving and protecting and succeeding now. The past is gone, the future is uncertain. All we have is the choice in front of us.